interesting, but we have to continue with our program because we are already a little bit late. So now we are having a couple of presentations through the internet. First, we have, I'm lost, where is she? Tina Benda, Risk Manager of EIT RawMaterials. Moira is already connected? Okay.
Hi, good afternoon. Or what was the time? Sorry, now it's noon, I see. Yes, hi.
Hi, hello. Sorry, is it me? I'm the first one. But is it already live? Well, good to know. Good to know. I think it would be still better if Luke would go first, if you agree. I think that way it should be better. So Luke, please, if you can, I kindly ask you to start our little session.
Very good. So thank you. Thank you, Maura, and thank you very much for the opportunity to be here. I will share my screen. Yeah, I can see, you should be able to see that. Very good. So again, thank you very much for the opportunity to be here. Just to introduce myself very briefly, my name is Luke Incorvaya. I am the officer at the EIT, primarily responsible for running the EIT Regional Innovation Scheme. And that's something I will be focusing on in my presentation today. I'll be speaking in more general terms of what the EIT community does. And then Tina, after me, will go into more detail in terms of what EIT RawMaterials does in particular. So first things first, I wanted to take a moment just to recall what the EIT is. Why was it set up? What does it do and how? So the EIT was set up in 2008 with the specific mandate of improving the innovation capacity of Europe in order to boost competitiveness and also the quality of life of our citizens. How do we do this? How do we drive innovation across Europe? We set up and run pan-European innovation ecosystems, which we call knowledge and innovation communities. EIT RawMaterials is one of them. Each of these brings together the so-called three sides of the knowledge triangle. So actors from leading business organizations, research laboratories, higher education institutions, and all other types of stakeholders which can contribute to boosting innovation across Europe. Each of our knowledge and innovation communities focuses on a particular societal challenge. The focus today is raw materials, so that is one of them, but there are others. I will go into this in the next slide. And they also include, each of these also include a number of unique features in the sense that they are pan-European, so they tackle the whole of Europe. They are also long-term in nature. They do not span only one framework program, but multiple framework programs, and also include key instruments within them, such as the need for financial sustainability, so that we are assured that the knowledge and innovation communities, once they start receiving a grant from the EIT, can continue to thrive and deliver on their mandate. We currently have 8 knowledge and innovation communities. As you can see, EIT RawMaterials, there was launched in 2015. The first wave was launched in 2010, with the latest launched in 2019. We will also have an additional kick launch next year, with the call expected to be launched in the next months. Between 2014 and 2020, I just want to mention a couple of figures here. The EIT channeled almost 2.4 billion euros to the knowledge and innovation communities, to the KICs, and this amount is expected to be close to 3 billion over the next 7 years. So as you can see, each of our knowledge and innovation communities tackles a different societal challenge. They are all also independent and autonomous. The EIT believes in the innovator knows best principle, meaning that while the EIT gives a degree of strategic direction to the knowledge and innovation communities and also monitors and evaluates their progress, it is really up to the KICs in order to devise the best way in order to deliver on their objectives. However, in spite of this, each of them delivers 3 core activities. The first is entrepreneurial education. So they deliver various types of activities under this strand. They undertake EIT-labeled master's and PhD programs, but also lifelong learning, short courses, mooches, executive training, all aimed at ensuring that apart from getting any form of technical training, our students also get entrepreneurial training. So knowing how to deliver on their own startup should they want to. And we see a very high incidence of this happening. The second is innovation projects. So the EIT does not fund research, but we help bring research results to the market. So the commercialization aspect. The last is business creation and business acceleration. We support startups and scale-ups across Europe in order to bring the next generation of entrepreneurs to the market. So in other words, the EIT supports students to become entrepreneurs. We support the ideas to become products, and we also bring lab results to the customer. How have we done so far? So these figures you can see are from last year as a result of the fact that we are still, so this is a situation in last year, we are still verifying the data from the last 12 months. But as of August 2020, we had 60 innovation hubs across Europe. There's actually now closer to 90. We had over 2,000 partners. Again, this figure is now more likely closer to 3,000, 2,500 plus. We had supported over 3,200 startups. Together, these had raised 3.3 billion euros and also created 13,000 jobs. We had supported over 3,000 graduates and brought over 1,000 products and services to the market. EIT RawMaterials has contributed significantly to this. In the presentation which was given at the beginning of this event, you could see how EIT RawMaterials has contributed to that. So how does this fare? I think we are very proud of what we have achieved. We have done a lot. For example, if you had to look at the 3.3 billion figure I showed you, we'll see that for every €1 the EIT and its KICs invested in startups, about 17 euros was leveraged back, which is pretty extraordinary. However, we continue to see, as was also presented earlier on in this event, that there is some significant change, some significant difference rather, between countries within the European Union. And as a result, in 2014, the EIT launched a regional innovation scheme. The regional innovation scheme is specifically targeted at supporting countries which are deemed to be modest and moderate innovators according to the European Innovation Scoreboard. You can see on the right the map of eligible countries for the EIT Regional Innovation Scheme. You can see Spain is there. An observation was made that Spain is a little bit lonely in terms of EIT RawMaterials. It's true. This will be the first RIS hub in Spain. However, I should highlight that actually Spain is not at all lonely in terms of the KIC presence. There are actually 7 KIC co-location centers in Spain spread across 6 cities. Spain also does pretty well. It's in the top 4 countries in terms of participation and also the amount of grant attracted. This stood at around 50 million in 2019, and there were nearly 280 partners also at that time. These figures will of course continue to increase as we go forward. We have seen actually Spain's grant figure between 2014 and 2019 increase fourfold. So I'm pretty confident that this approach, this number will continue to increase. But Spain is also eligible for the EIT Regional Innovation Scheme. What we try to do via the EIT Regional Innovation Scheme is to help increase the capacity of those countries, widen participation, bring more partners in. We share good practices and also implement strong synergies with the smart specialization strategies. I want to talk very briefly now about what's going to happen with the EIT over the next 7 years. So as I mentioned, we'll be launching 2 new kicks. The first one next year will be in the area of culture and creative industries, and we'll also be touching upon the area of EIT water, a new kick to be launched in 2026. We have 3 overarching priorities, and one of these will be to increase the regional capacity, or rather the regional outreach of the EIT through our RIS, right? The other 2 will be the launch of the new kicks and also a new instrument aimed at supporting the innovation capacity of the higher education sector. You can also see our budget, which has increased by 25%, which is close to 3 billion euros. How will the EIT RIS be strengthened over the next years? And then Tina can really go into details of how EIT RawMaterials will do it. But first and foremost, it will become mandatory and an integral part of the KICS multi-annual strategies. The EIT RIS was already being implemented by all KICS before now. However, now it is legally also mandatory. We will continue to support modest and moderate innovators. Spain will remain eligible, and also the EU's outermost regions will be eligible as well, which also positively impacts Spain in this sense. We will improve the innovation capacity of local ecosystems. We will undertake capacity building activities that we have done in the past, and we will strengthen and continue to do what we have done so far. We will also make it a point as a key objective to attract new partners into the KICS, including to the establishment of new RIS hubs, which is exactly what EIT RawMaterials is doing today. Finally, we have the intention of trying to leverage public and private funding through the EIT RIS, particularly in terms of the European structural and investment funds. So this year is maybe also a good moment for me to make a small pledge to regional authorities, to national authorities, to work with us in order to find ways how to do this. It's one of those things where it takes two to tango. So at the very end of my presentation, I just want to highlight that all opportunities emerging from the EIT community, whether these are through the EIT RIS or other activities, are published on our website. The link is there. I'm not sure if my presentation will be circulated or not, but please do take note of that link, opportunities on the EIT website. And we really, really look forward to working with more of you. And we are sure that the RIS Hub in Spain will act as a gateway for more Spanish activities within the EIT community. That's it from me. Thank you for your attention. I will stop my presentation here, and I remain available to take any questions from you at any point. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Just give me a second. So I hope you can see my screen. Yes, okay. Let's just enlarge it a bit. Okay, so hello everyone. Greetings from my side. My name is Tina Benda. I am the Regional Innovation Scheme or RIS Manager of EIT RawMaterials. And today I am here to present to you the opportunities within this Regional Innovation Scheme or RIS for you. So thanks for Luke for making the intro. I think it was very clear, but you know, as the RIS officer or RIS manager of EIT RawMaterials, I always like to, let's say, stress again of what Regional Innovation Scheme or RIS is and where does it originate from. Well, as Luke has presented, in Europe, we are noticing some considerable disparities in research and innovation performance, I would say, mainly between the North and the South, or the East and the West. And this is why the Regional Innovation Scheme, or RIS, was introduced by the EIT in 2014. So to advance the innovation performance of European countries that are below the European innovation average. It sounds complicated, but it's like I said, right? So there are less innovative countries than the EU average is. Spain is one of those, and this is why the EIT has established the RIS scheme to help advance the innovation performance. Okay, so yes, indeed, the EIT RawMaterials is including RIS, or the Regional Innovation Scheme activities, into all our portfolio. So in the matchmaking and networking section, where we offer participation at networking events such as RawMaterials Summit or Expert Forum, it is a great opportunity for RIS partners or RIS entities to meet with our other partners and discuss the potential innovation project or activities. So we kindly invite everyone to join our community and benefit from the events and other matchmaking activities that we provide. The RIS is also part of our acceleration programs. You can see here in green. So we have RIS upscaling projects that we are supporting. And of course, entities from RIS can cooperate in our Startup Booster or RawMaterials Accelerator programs for entrepreneurship. And last but not least, we also offer academy programs such as master education and lifelong learning programs also for stakeholders from RIS. And now I would like to take your attention and point it out to the costs that we, you have heard the presentation from Pierluigi, and he presented that there is a call out. It's called CAVA Call 9 for innovation projects. And we are looking for education projects, lifelong learning programs, and PhD summer winter schools, and also upscaling CAVA projects that would be bringing raw materials related technologies to the market. But I would just like to point out that when an education proposal or project or an upscaling proposal or project is mainly performed in one of the RIS countries, so these are the ones in green you can see on the map, this is called the RIS education project or a RIS upscaling project. And of course, you are eligible to apply for both of these categories in CAVA Call 9. But besides these two, there is a category in this 9th call for projects of EIT RawMaterials that I would especially like you to present in more details today. And this is called the Risk Capacity Building CAVA call. So the Risk Capacity Building CAVA call is a bit more specific, a bit different. The risk upscaling and the risk education calls, and I will explain a bit later. Building CAVA proposals is that they would address a realistic. Hello? Hi. Okay, where did you lose me? Okay, thank you. Okay, so I will wait a bit each time I change. Okay, so the risk capacity building call for projects is looking for proposals that would address a realistic challenge related to raw materials that is coming from a risk country or risk regions, and through project provide a solution on how to solve this realistic and existing challenge. So the risk capacity building call for projects is for entities that are coming from risk countries. It's for Can you still hear me? Okay, sorry. So I would like to say that in the risk capacity building projects, non-risk partners can cooperate as well. And there are some favorable criteria that makes the call different from the upscaling and education call. And there is no mandatory co-funding in risk capacity building projects and no mandatory financial sustainability mechanism. So having this favorable criteria in mind, I would just like to present to you some examples of risk capacity building activities so that you can imagine a bit more what are we looking for, and hopefully it would also spark some ideas from your side already. So some of the examples of risk capacity building activities are, let's say that you would need to prepare a market analysis or a go-to-market strategy for future upscaling projects. They're also, let's say, for testing new and innovative products or technologies in risk regions. If there's a challenge in risk region, and on the other hand, you have a technology that was tested and is working in some other region, and you would like to see if it works in risk region as well, this is a good opportunity to test it through the risk capacity building project. It can also be, let's say, a preparation of an European Raw Materials Alliance investment case that comes from RIS, but this list is not exclusive. So the risk capacity building call is quite open, and I really invite you to read it. Now, just to shortly conclude, having the two favorable criteria in mind, so no mandatory financial sustainability mechanism or co-funding, I would say that the risk capacity building call should detect raw materials related challenges in risk countries, and then through the consortium, propose a solution on how to solve them. And what is in it for the technology or the solution provider? Well, it's a great activity that can open a new market for your business in risk country. So with this, I would conclude. I do apologize if there are any technical issues. I hope that the main message got through. But in any case, RIS, regional innovation scheme activities, I would say are very specific. And they are, it's on case-to-case basis that we can actually establish, is it something that we would like to support as RIS? Is it a challenge? Do you really provide a solution for it? So I would just encourage everyone to contact the newly established hub in Sevilla or the co-location center in the south of Italy of EIT RawMaterials, and just discuss your idea or the questions that you have. But the RIS activities of our KIC are really there to, trying to get new ideas, new stakeholders from the RIS region into our whole KIC, into our community. That I would say is the core of the RIS activities.
Thank you, Tina and Luke and Moira as well for the connection. And now we come back to the room, if I'm not wrong. And we welcome Fernando Mérida Martín to present his part from the Joint Research Center here in Seville.
Good morning. I'm Fernando Mérida. I'm working at the GRC, the Joint Research Center located in Seville. We are very glad and thanks a lot for the invitation for participating in this very interesting event. For us, it's always a pleasure to work together with the EIT, as we have been doing for several years in different areas, particularly with the climate, but also with InnoEnergy, and also with the EIT RawMaterials that we have some meetings 2 years ago, I think, in preparation of the creation of this hub. So for us, it's really interesting to be here. And also, it's really interesting to be here as we have been very active working together with the Spanish regions in developing the RIS3 strategies that has been happening for the last programming period, and now they are evolving in the new scenario. And you were very kindly asked us to be here and participate in the event, in today's event, talking about the monitoring of the implementation of the strategies. We also could participate here in with other things, as for instance, we have been working also very, very deeply in the European regions in the creation of interregional partnerships. One of them regarding mining industry, in which several Spanish regions are part, as Andalucía, Extremadura, Castilla-León, and Asturias. So, without any further delay, I will start. This is the schedule that I want to talk about, the contents, a little bit about the Smart Specialization concept and methodology, as some of you probably, although it has been a lot said about that, but maybe some of you are not familiar with the concept, how we have been assessing the implementation of this concept. What is the situation? What has been the situation in Spain in the past programming period? What is going to happen in the future, and how we can connect the activities that we have been doing with the next with the current programming period, and some conclusions about what has learned during these years. So, as many of you know, or probably all of you know, the Smart Specialization concept was introduced in the former programming period 2014-2020 in order to improve the innovation capacities of European territories. It was considered at that time as an ex-ante conditionality that was trying to improve the innovation capacities, as I say, by completing or fulfilling all of these elements that you can see in this very long list, that make innovation a priority for all regions, improve the innovation processes, respond to economic and societal challenges, so many different elements. Of course, it was a very complex scenario. It was a very complex process because most of the activities demand a lot of implication from the public authorities and also from the private part. We at the GRC developed a guide at that time trying to make possible the process of improving innovation at the territories, but it was clearly a learning by doing process. So it was not a very perfect mode at that time. It was not a very clear and a very precise way of proposing things, but the Commission was very, very interested in trying to convince all the agents, all the European stakeholders at the member state level, at the regional level, and even at the local level about the importance of renewing the innovation policy. So the process was organized through these 6 steps that you see here. In particular, it was demanded to make a proper regional analysis, potential analysis of the territorial capacities and so on, and this analysis should be done not from the top-down traditional vision, but also involving the stakeholders, innovation stakeholders, the universities, the research centers, the companies, even the society should participate in this process of identifying what could be the capacities of the territory. Then to define a governance, a vision for the next time, in order to be able to develop this model of where innovation plays a fundamental role through this EDP, this acronym that it was very strange at that time, but now it's very familiar for many of us, the entrepreneurial discovery process, that at the end of the day is a system that would try to favor the participation of any stakeholder in the decision-making process. In the decision-making process, defining the priorities, what are the areas in where the investments were going to be made through a policy mix that should be then monitored and evaluate. So this was the global concept and methodology of the smart specialization strategies. I try in this slide to say something more about 4 of these 6 elements, with particular with more relevant, let's say, because of the complexity of all of them. The entrepreneurial discovery process tried to guide the public and private investments in innovation areas. The EDP is a process that requires a constant dedication of the public administration and the public authorities in coordinating and leading the process of identifying priorities, and it is always a complex exercise because it demands a lot of trust between the public administration and the private agents. But it is essential to involve all of the agents that usually at that time were out of the system, were only passive agents of the innovation policies. The governance, it was really, really important because we were talking about a multi-governance environment where the decisions that were going to take by the national, for instance, administration should be very, very aligned, very, very close aligned with the regional decisions. And also, both the decision environment should be connected with the European environment. So the governance model, and a governance model that involved all of these agents, was really a tricky situation. It was very difficult to construct, to build this environment, but it was really necessary. The monitoring and evaluation activities were also really important because until that moment, probably afterwards, I'm going to say something about what is the final situation, but in 2014, when this policy was launched, the monitoring and evaluation activities were really not very, very, let's say, good. Yeah, it was most of the times a very low exercise with not a good commitment of the authorities that in any case were not involving the rest of the stakeholders in the process of the monitoring and evaluation. And then the priorities identification, it was really probably, if the other 3 elements were difficult, the identification of the priorities were even more difficult because it was a question of decision to where to invest or where not to invest. And it was really difficult when we were considering that normally most of the policies that until that time has been conducted, it was like a blind policies where everything was going to be investments were going to be in every place. So how to define the process, this EDP process, where the different stakeholders were being involved together with the public administration and the public authorities in the definition of the priorities, was really, really a difficult process. The idea, it was to try to get this kind of a scenario. When the decision of find a priority was made, it was under the idea that something has to be identified within the capacities of a given territory in order to make this territory specific, special, in order to make the possibilities of development of this territory only belonging to this territory. Of course, this is very difficult, but the idea was to try to make this kind of analysis in a territory. It's a very simple example, but I think that it could give you the idea of what was pursued. You make an analysis of the economic potential of a given territory, and you identify what kind of employment and productivity you have. For instance, in the agri-food sector, you can make a scientific analysis and you can identify that you have a lot of excellence capacities or activities in pharmaceutical research and biotechnology. At the same time, you have a lot of potential in the innovation capacities regarding the growth of biotech cluster. And also you have identified in your territory some societal challenges related with health, obesity, and health problems. The combination of all of these activities, all of this analysis, could lead you to identify this area as one of your priorities, the functional foods for health patients. So the idea was to try to find in where your territory is capable of doing things, and doing things for, of course, for creating productivity in your territory, but also to be beneficial for the society, and you were trying to develop this analysis. So this was the global scene that it was presented in 2013 and was approved to be running from 2014 till 2020. During this process, a lot of things has happened. As I said before, it was a long process where all of the ones that has been participating, the Commission, the member states, the regions, the companies, the universities, all the elements that has been participating in the process have learned a lot. And it has been a very continual learning process. At the very end of the process in 2020, we conducted some studies in order to see, in order to have first data about what has been the implementation. Of course, regions and member states have done their own analysis, and in Andalucía, for instance, it was conducted an evaluation of the RIS3 process, and in many other Spanish regions and European regions, this evaluation has also been made. From our perspective, we try to understand and try to see how was the process regarding the governance, regarding the monitoring and evaluation, regarding the EDP. In terms of the governance, what we can say, we have identified that the networks between these stakeholders that I was mentioned before, coming from the public administration, from the private sector, different elements in the society has been working together, and the system has been strengthened normally in many European regions. The decision making process has been improved, and we can say now that the connections between the different elements of the innovation system all across Europe has been increased and improved. And this has contributed to some institutional changes that are really important in order to work together in both in tangible and intangible goods. But of course, we also see some deficiencies, and in fact, the effectiveness of this horizontal and vertical coordination is still low. We can see a lot of room for improvement because the connections between the different parts, for instance, in the case of Spain, when we can talk about 4 levels of administration, or even 5 levels of administration. We talk about the Canary Island. We have the European, the national, the regional, the local, and it's quite complex to organize all the connections and the interactions between them. But anyway, the situation has been improved. Regarding the entrepreneurial discovery process, as I told before, it was a process that tried to put in the same table all different agents from the innovation system. How this has evolved in the different territories? Well, it's very context dependent. You can see that European regions that were used to work together, for them has not been a very significant problem to put in place this proposal that the Commission were doing at that time. For instance, in the case of Spain, Navarra and País Vasco and Basque Country has been working very well in this scenario because they have a lot of connections between the agents of their system. In other territories, the situation has not been so positive, let's say. But again, and in very close connection with the governance model that I mentioned before, the system has improved a lot, the capacity of connectivity between these agents. Even, as I said, it's very context dependent. Also, it affects to the different sectors. There are sectors that are more able to connect than others. There are a culture and there are other elements that all has to be considered when analyzing the implication of every agent in the system. Talking about the monitoring and evaluation system, I said before that probably at the very beginning of the former programming period, when talking about monitoring and evaluation, to the most that we can expect is to have some kind of accountability system, but not more than that. So we have seen that in the evolution of the 2014-2020 implementation of these strategies, there is still a lot inertia, let's say. So we have identified an incomplete logic of intervention. It has not been very clear how to follow the investments. The indicators that were used were too broad or too far from the needs that we need in order to be able to assess in which way the investments in S3 are in S3 priorities are really having success or not, and then you can see a great heterogeneity, of course, again talking about the difference between the territories, and for sure we have seen a big deficiency in the evaluation process. We can consider that the monitoring process is okay, at least in this accountability part. But for sure, we cannot say very good and positive messages about the evaluation of the smart specialization strategies. Also, but we have to consider that the smart specialization strategies are really connected with the implementation of the structural funds, and there are still some years to make investments with the funds coming from the former period. So we will see what happens. But now we are not able to say that there is a very positive message about evaluation. So about Spain, what has happened about Spain? Spain has participated a lot in a very positive way with the GRC in the development, the design, implementation, and many other things regarding the S3, the RIS3 environment. Let me say that S3 and RIS3 for us is the same: research and innovation strategy for smart specialization. So, for instance, at the end of 2013, I think that all the Spanish regions, all the Spanish comunidades autónomas have already prepared the strategic framework that they will going to develop in the programming period. And it was not very much the case of other European regions. So Spain was really involved, really engaged in the idea of trying to change and trying to improve the innovation policies through this RIS3 model. And we have been working, as I say, a lot with the Spanish regions. So we can say that when talking with the regions, most of the regions, I think that the vast majority of regions assess very positively in which way they have been working in the RIS3 environment, and they assess positively what has been the implications of the participation in the development of this concept. But again, an heterogeneous degree of progress can be observed. Again, it's very context dependent. It is important to consider what are the tradition in innovation policies in the different regions. But it is important, very important, to say that even in the less developed regions like Extremadura, that it was in the previous programming period, Extremadura was the only less developed region of the 17 Spanish regions. The progress, the interaction, the connections between the innovation system in the region has improved significantly. And this is very good news in order to see what is going to happen in the current programming period. what has been the most relevant elements that has been prevented a better success of the implementation of these policies? Well, we have identified that the lack of a continual political leadership is one of the most important elements. Just because even it was a participatory model where the stakeholders, the private stakeholders were participating and were invited to participate actively in the process, at the end of the day, this process has to be led and coordinated by the public authorities. And it was not all the times the case that the public authorities were involved during the whole process. It was clear that 2013 and 14, most of the public authorities, regional public authorities, were dealing a lot with the concept, but it was not the case as the time passed. So this is one of the problems. And then the second one, it was to have not sufficient resources, human and physical resources, let's say, or financial resources. It was clear that the public administrations need to have a lot of muscle when dealing with these policies, because of course the need to have knowledge, to be knowledgeable about innovation and about the interactions of innovation policies with research policies, with industrial policies. All of these elements are really, really important and demands very good and very skilled personnel. That is not always the case in many regions. And of course, the problem that I mentioned before around governance, it was not, well, perfect, let's say. It has been improved, but there is a lot of deficiencies in the governance, not only regarding the vertical governance between state administration, regional administration, or local administration, but horizontal between the different departments of a particular administration. These competencies, responsibilities that are in different elements of the government, of the regional government or national government, are not helping a lot, of course. And then in the entrepreneurial discovery process that I mentioned before, it was essential for constructing the governance, but also for defining the priorities, has not worked as it was expected. Again, it has been better now. It is better now than it was in the past, but the interactions between the different elements has not worked perfectly, in part because the private part has not been so engaged as it was expected. And there are many explanations of why this did happen. For instance, the lack of trust between the private and the public sector is one of these elements. So these conditions has effect to many different regions in Europe, and of course those regions that are less developed, that has less capacities, has been affected more than the others. The evaluation process and systems have improved. As I said before, we are not able to say that the evaluation processes are really the one that are needed, but we can say that the monitoring aspects has been improved significantly, and at least in some territories. And these conditions we expect that are going to affect the current programming period, in order to see that regions and member states are able to control and to assess in the right way how the implementation of the policies are happening. Well, I'm going to say something about what is now, what is now happening, and in which way this innovation scheme, the Smart Specialization Innovation Scheme, could affect. Well, we have changed regarding the cohesion policy. The Smart Specialization Scheme has changed a bit, because in 2014-2020, in the previous programming period, it was an ex-ante conditionality. Every region has to have a strategy, a smart specialization strategy, in order to be able to spend structural funds. Now there is not this kind of prerequisite, but you have to show to the Commission that you have a good governance system of research and innovation, and this is an enabling condition. So it's not an ex-ante conditionality, but you are now, I think, even more obliged to, because you have to prove that you have a system that is working well, that is very well connected, and you have to prove it during the whole programming period. In the former programming period, you have to have a strategy. If you have this strategy, well, okay, you have fulfilled the requirement. Now you have to prove every year that you are fulfilling this enabling condition. And this enabling condition is formed by 7 criteria that you can say there. Very much related with innovation diffusion, with the good performance of the stakeholder engagement, with interregional cooperation, with industrial transitions, and so on. So this is the new scenario that is quite demanding, let's say, for the regions. And it's quite demanding because we are now in this different environment. It was clear that the world was going to be evolving during the 7 years of duration of the former programming period, and at that time we were also affected by many really tricky situations like climate change and so on. But we have been affected now by many other things, in particular the pandemic. And even before the pandemic, the European Commission has put in place new policies that will demand a change in the settings and a change in the definition of the policies regarding innovation. And innovation is now, it was in the past, but now it clearly is a transversal element of many different policies that the Commission is proposing and the member states are developing. Of course, the Green Deal, the twin transition, the industrial, the ecological, the digitalization, of course, the new role of cities, the new role of the local municipalities that has evolved in a much more important way. And then the situation that we are now facing in most of the European countries resulting of the pandemic, and in particular in Spain, with the Next Generation EU funds that are going to be elements that for sure will change or need to change the decisions-making processes and the results of the policies. So in this context, and taking into account what has been the result of all of these years of implementing the ES3 environment, of course, we need to guarantee the political leadership that has to be maintained from the very beginning until the very end of the process, and a political leadership and commitment in analyzing, in funding, and in controlling the decisions that are going to be made. Political leadership that has to be very close, working very close with the private parts, and has to put really in place the entrepreneurial discovery process as it was considered some years ago as the best way to interact between the different parts. And of course, one of the elements that are crucial for guaranteeing the political leadership and coordination is to have public administrations able to deal with the part that they have, that they are responsible for. The public administrations has to coordinate the whole process, as we are using a lot of public funds. Of course, they are not the only funds that are there, but the public administration are there to coordinate and need to have really good elements that are going to be also able to improve this multi-level governance that we were telling that was a little bit inefficient during the last programming period. And then finally, the capacities of the regions and the member states, any agent participating in the system, of evaluating how the policies, how the decisions are having success or not, is essential, because we need to learn about the decision that we have taken. We have to learn about the results in order to correct, in order to improve, and in order to be able to consider that our policies has been really assessed. And I think that this is the end of my speech. So thanks a lot for your attention. And again, thanks a lot for inviting us to this very interesting meeting.
Thanks. Thank you very much. Yes, Fernando. Now it's time for Pablo Cortés Achedad, Secretary General of Enterprise, Innovation and Entrepreneurship from the Junta de Andalucía. I think Pablo has to change the computer. Maybe this would take only 1 minute, but I don't know if any of you want to make a question to Fernando on the meantime. We didn't plan time for questions because, well, this is a launching event, then every question has to be resolved all on time, no? But I think it will be only 1 minute.
Thank you very much, Margarita. And la tienes que duplicar para que ella pueda saber dónde andan las cosas. Si tú tocas aquí también se mueve ahí, dale para adelante. Sí, vale, perfecto, pues dale para atrás. Okay, now. Okay, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, authorities and representatives from the CSIC, the EIT, and the Joint Research Center and the European Commission. Good morning to the attendees in this room and those ones that are virtually following the agenda of this launching event today. I'm honored to have received the invitation to participate in this program from the CSIC through its institutional delegate in Andalucía, Ms. Paneke, and I'm pleased to be here on behalf of Andalusian government as Secretary General for Business, Innovation and Entrepreneurship. On the occasion of the official launching of the EIT RawMaterials Hub Regional Center Southern Spain, a hub that brings to Andalusia a range of opportunities for the entities and companies involved with the primary raw materials exploration, extraction, and processing. Moreover, I'm sincerely glad to have the opportunity to explain the details about how Andalusia region is dealing with the process of design and elaboration of its Smart Specialisation strategy for sustainability for the current Cohesion Framework 2021-2027. The S4 Andalusia a renewed and evolved strategy conceived to advance deeper in the specialization process of our region. S4 Andalusia intends to go further from the experience of the previous RIS3 Andalusia, and that is why we are building it, taking into account the results and lessons learned from the S3 implementation during the last period, 2014-2020. I must say that the relationship between the S4 Andalusia and the EIT RawMaterials Hub has already started 2 months ago, since the EIT RawMaterials Hub has been participating in the public consultation opened with the process design of the strategy last July, making their contribution to the S4 working document in progress, the diagnosis of the Andalusian innovation system, and the correspondent SWOT. That means that the EIT Hub has already a place in the S4 Andalusia, while their inputs have been already taken into account and considered to enrich the working documents in the following way. First, the document Socioeconomic Diagnosis of the Andalusia Innovation Systems of the S4 Andalusia that has included among the key agents of the Andalusia Innovation System. The hub, being a relevant space for the international cooperation, is a valuable element joining the capacities composing the regional innovation system. The EIT RawMaterials Hub is also contemplated at the SWOT as one of the strengths identified for the Andalusian innovation system. The EIT RawMaterials Hub has by now expressed its intention to collaborate with the Andalusian S4, and we will continue counting with its voice and opinion, both for the definition and proposals that S4 will afford during the next phases and for the programmatic part. I would like to start my intervention focusing on the concept of smart specialization and its role within the current EU Cohesion Framework 21-27, and what does it mean for a region like Andalucía as regards as the reception of structural funds, particularly the ERDF. After showing you some relevant results from 14-20 and how S3 Andalucía took into account the raw material within their priorities, I will share with you the details of the S4 Andalucía design process, the progresses already accomplished in the first phases of the process, the methodology foreseen facing the prioritization phase, the actors involved, the principles of its governance, the schedule of and the instruments put in place to facilitate the public participation, the methodology for co-design, and the entrepreneurial discovery process. S3 concept is aligned with the main objective of cohesion policy, that is to reduce differences and ensure a balanced development among regions, and to ensure growth across Europe. The European Commission introduced the S3 concept in the European Union Cohesion Policy 14-20. Structural funds are among its main tools. Its efficient use and management has been a crucial factor for many regions in Europe to overcome the economic crisis and strengthen the recovery in a sustainable way. For this reason, over the programming period 14-20, developing a research and innovation strategy for Smart Specialisation strategy, S3, has been a prerequisite ex-ante conditionality in order to receive funding from the European Regional Development Fund. Smart Specialisation has inspired regional innovation strategies in the European Union for the last 7 years, proving its capacity to be a successful driver for change, particularly regarding governance, setting, participation of the private sectors and stakeholders, inclusiveness of the policy process, and adoption of strategic priorities, combining science and communities as knowledge base for their identification. The new programming period brings to us a new generation of smart specialization strategies. Now we are living the first year of a new period, the transition between two financing periods after a terrible crisis that has hit all of us, European Union regions and countries. It is time to rethink the past and future regional strategies, new elements, reforms of research and innovation systems, innovation diffusion, industrial transition, interregional cooperation. The next generation of smart specialization strategies offers the opportunity to embed the new European industrial policy, orienting growth policy to the European Green Deal, in line with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. An evolution from a full bottom-up approach in line in the 14-20 period to a combination of bottom-up and top-down approaches using the new mission-oriented concept for the European Union innovation policy offers opportunities for the next generation of the S3. The new European Union regulations for structural funds, published at the end of January, establishes 5 policy objectives driving the European Union investing and supporting growth for the period 2021-2027, with a budget of 373,000 million euros. Andalucía is considered a less developed region during this new period. In this context, Andalucía pretends to be part of a more competitive and intelligent Europe, which promotes an innovative economy transformation, regional connectivity based on technologies, innovation, information, and communications. A region that faces the challenges of decarbonization, the circular economy, leaving no one behind by promoting regional resilience. Every day more inclusive and closer to the Andalusian citizens. Each enabled condition must be linked to a specific objective and be automatically applied if that specific objective is selected for the assistance. Smart specialization strategies refers to the policy objective 1, a more competitive and smarter Europe, smart and innovative economic transformation. The support of the ERDF under policy objective 1 should be based on capacity building for smart specialization strategies, setting priorities at national, regionals, or both to reinforce the territory's competitive advantages by developing strengths in terms of research and innovation and establishing correlations between these and the necessary business needs and competencies through an entrepreneurial discovery process. According to the regulation for the ERDF and Cohesion Fund, the ERDF shall support the specific objectives of a more competitive and smarter smart Europe by promoting innovative and smart economic transformation and regional ICT connectivity, by developing and enhancing research and innovation capacities, by reaping the benefits of digitalization for citizens, companies, research organizations, and public authorities, by enhancing sustainable growth and competitiveness of SMEs and job creation in SMEs, and by developing skills for smart specialization, industrial transition, and entrepreneurship. And last, by enhancing digital connectivity. The regulation of common provisions for the European Union funds 21-27 defines a series of enabling conditions within the scope of 7 European funds of shared management, among them the ERDF. New for this period, it is important to underline that there will be an ongoing assessment of the enabling condition during all the period. If these conditions are not met, the European Commission will not make reimbursements associated with the specific objectives linked to those enabling conditions. For the political objective 1, a more competitive and intelligent Europe promoting an economic, innovative and intelligent transformation, the condition is called good governance of the national or regional strategy of intelligent specialization. Its fulfillment is determined based on the 7 criteria indicated at the slide defined by the European Commission. This slide shows the 8 priorities identified by the S3 Andalucía, the first smart specialization strategy of our region, designed and implemented for the last framework 14-20. We can refer to the priority 3, sustainable use of territorial-based endogenous resources, as the priority particularly linked to the sector and the area of work of the EIT RawMaterials Hub. One of the 8 priorities of S3 Andalucía contemplates the raw material area, including lines of actions related to it. Priority 3, sustainable use of territorial-based endogenous resources. The priority was defined from the identification of some comparative and competitive advantages in Andalucía regarding our field of interest today. We have underlined the high mining potential and geodiversity, wide variety of mineral raw material deposits, and a resurgent metal mining sector. Among the lines of actions included in the priority to be developed by and implemented, the S3 establishes research and innovation on the management of natural resources and cultural heritage, mining integrated in the territory. The slide shows some results related to P3 implementation corresponding to the last monitoring report by the end of 2019. Particularly noteworthy in the field of cooperation are some projects developed with the focus on the mining sector, such as Mireu project, Infact project, and Myland project. Mireu project aiming to establish a network of mining and metallurgy regions across Europe with a view to ensure the sustained and sustainable supply of mineral raw materials to the European Union. The objective and the network is to help the regions to share knowledge and experience when facing the challenge to establish and maintain an extractive industry. The innovative, non-invasive, and fully acceptable exploration technologies, Infact project, with the goal of improved raw material security in the European Union. Infact has the ambition to increase chance of discovery via access to new physical places and application of innovative exploration methods. Mineline project correspond to the establishment of criteria for the integration of policies on mineral resource on the organization and planning of the territory at different scales, sharing of criteria and deepening in the characterization and definition on the potential use of land, territory, and in the formal, temporary, intensive aspect of said land and territory uses. This slide shows the results accomplished by the S3 Andalucía during the previous period. According to the S3 Andalucía monitoring report, at the end of 2019, the amount of 2,600 million euros, the 98% of the budget foreseen, were already employed in developing a total of 188 initiatives attending to the 8 priorities. The development of this action implementing S3 spilled over the rest of regional sectorial planning, involving a total of 11 Andalusian strategies, among them the Andalusian mining strategy and the industrial one. Regarding priorities and allocation of budget, more than the half of the investment have been made involving more than one priority, and the 40% are linked to the ICT, energy, and agro-industry. A system of S3 Andalucía indicators has been designed and been integrated into the Statistical Data Bank of Andalucía, an information repository centralized by the statistical production of the Andalucía Institute of Statistics and Cartography. The medium and long-term result indicators provide quantitative information to assess the socioeconomic change experienced by Andalucía as a result of the performance of the actions and are linked to the final objectives established in the strategy. According with them, the majority of the indicators regarding the final objectives have been reached, showing a positive evolution, especially the ones related to the ICT sector. Efforts should be still made regarding some indicators, such as the percentage of research, development, and innovation expenditure with regard to the gross domestic product, the percentage of the innovation intensity in the innovative companies, and the number of innovative companies. The European Commission has promoted the creation of smart specialization platforms to encourage regions and their innovation actors across the European Union to build strategic partnerships, endorsing complementarity of regional funding for innovation in specific smart specialization areas. These collaborative networks have the ultimate goal of establishing European ecosystems for transnational and interregional collaboration in regions and countries with similar or complementary S3 priorities, thus helping regions to improve their regional knowledge base, leading to new paths and developments and a better position in global value chains, and to transnational joint strategies of innovation. Andalucía has positioned itself within these S3 initiatives, leading 4 S3 partnerships: traceability and big data in agri-food, sustainable building, advanced materials for batteries, and digitalization and security in tourism. Let me show some relevant characteristics of Andalusia region in the European Union context. Andalusia is the second largest region in Europe, the most populated region in Spain, and is highly urbanized. It's a region of borders with a clear strategic location, giving access area to Africa and to Latin America. Main facts and figures regarding research and development expenses related to the gross domestic product: for example, 0.9%, only the 37.3% from the private sector, with 14,347 researchers and a GDP attaining 19,633 euros per capita. 63.3% of the population has reached the primary and secondary education level, and 27.7% the higher education level. The new S4 Andalusia strategy responds to the enabling condition and has been conceived focused on 2 fundamental objectives. First, converting innovation into the key to economic transformation, which gives our ministry its name. in terms of competitiveness and sustainability. All of this to achieve more and new activity that creates prosperity and employment. And second, comply with the conditionality that the European Union has established for the ERDF Andalucía operational program, good governance of the regional smart specialization strategy. The Andalucía government approved the formulation agreement to elaborate the formulation of the Smart Specialization Strategy for Sustainability of Andalucía 21-27 at the beginning of this year and was published at the official journal at the end of January. The agreement defined the main elements and key contents of the S4 Andalucía design process, together with the actors of its governance, its key contents, and the calendar. A governance simpler, more agile, and effective, reaching deeper into a smart specialization, a live entrepreneurial discovery process, and a committed technical team driving the elaboration process. The Ministry of Economic Transformation, Industry, Knowledge, and the University chairs the working group that promotes the strategy of the S4. The group has a key role, having its first meeting on 18th March 2021. The decision to incorporate into this group the participation of the Joint Research Center, the European Commission research body that leads the S platform to accompany us to successfully complete the process, is also a fundamental action. Concerning the agents involved, the governance model guarantees the real and effective participation of the quadruple helix, facilitating the partaking and contribution of all interested regional actors involved with Andalusian research, development, and innovation ecosystem. Agents of the Andalusia knowledge system, such as universities, public research organizations, science technology parks, research and technology centers, technology transfer entities, and organizations related to research, development, and innovation. Economic and social agents, citizens, public administrations involved, and additionally, other key role is played by the technical team, including representatives of the different Andalusian departments at technical level, where research, development, and innovation competencies, and the co-design with the academia together with the one of the business and industry in the process of transition towards digitalization and sustainability. And finally, the role of the technical office, the IDEA agency, that is the regional entity having a close commitment to the innovation and business as its main sign of identity. The design process was open to the general public through the webinar celebrated last 15th July, serving to introduce the strategy and its relevance within the framework of the European Cohesion Policy 21-27 to the Andalusian innovation ecosystem, transmitting the commitment of the Andalusian government to this process and the necessary involvement of Andalusian citizens and key agents. The webinar presented the S4 Andalusia community as the community integrating all the stakeholders and citizens willing to have a role and their say in the strategy, opening the participation to the public in the different milestones of the strategy, the design, the implementation, the monitoring, the evaluation, and the accountability, within the context of a transparent, open, and continuous entrepreneurial discovery process. The webinar counted with 460 people registered and a total of 369 attendees. The online public consultation was open till the end of July, giving access through the S4 Andalusia web platform to a forum where stakeholders and the general public could transmit their opinion about the S4 Andalusia documents in progress. The participation reflects the following distribution by type of entity or actors: 5% around public sector, 30% around the civil society, citizens and non-government organizations, and 20% regarding the academia. The online public consultation shows an overall assessment of 2.63 that was obtained by the documents presented to the public: diagnosis, SWOT, and bottlenecks for innovation and digitalization, which indicates the Andalusian innovation ecosystem makes a good assessment of the initial diagnosis that has been made for the formulation of the S4. The technical office is managing the open public participation together with the support of the technical team. The technical office has received the contribution and updated the documents in progress, the diagnosis, the SWOT, and the innovation and digital bottlenecks schemes. And the EIT RawMaterials Hub has participated in the public consultation open within the process design of the strategy last July, making their contributions. The S4 Andalucía has been built having into account regional and European Union evidence and context, the scientific information system information, the value chain analysis, the technological trends, the S3 monitoring results, the Andalusian government innovation commitments, amongst others, as well as the participation of relevant collaboration actors such as the Joint Research Center or the thematic platforms. The basis of all these inputs within a continuous entrepreneurial discovery process will result in the definition of the regional priorities for this cohesion period, having as horizontal criteria the sustainability, industrial transition, and the digitalization. This is the scheme of the forcing calendar with the milestones. The S4 Andalusian calendar pretends to be shared roadmap with an ongoing entrepreneurial discovery process, a continuous entrepreneurial discovery process throughout all the phases of the design and the implementation. And finishing, among the elements to take into the consideration in view of the prioritization as regard as the EIT RawMaterials Hub, we can emphasize that the raw material is a relevant sector for our region. The raw materials and mining have been incorporated into our regional planning, and the Andalusian quadruple helix agents involved with this sector, the industry, the research, academia, policymakers, public authorities, entrepreneurs, and students. All of them will be relevant actors of the entrepreneurial discovery within the Smart Specialization strategies. The RawMaterials Hub Regional Center Southern Spain opens a window of new opportunities for the Andalusian enterprises. S4 Andalucía will contribute to encourage the connectivity between Andalusian entities and enterprises of the sector, and the EIT RawMaterials Hub within the objective of networking and mutual support relationships. S4 Andalucía is betting on the sustainable access to critical resources for a green and digital Andalusia, considering circular economy to obtain metals and critical raw materials. The Andalusian government, through the accompaniment of S4 Andalucía, is willing to promote and support the Andalusian cluster on the mining value chain as potential partner of the RawMaterials Hub Regional Center Southern Spain and facilitator for interregional cooperation. S4 Andalucía will be eager to actively participate and collaborate with RawMaterials Hub Regional Center Southern Spain and the CSIC as its leader, and the rest of the European Union partners that are involved. And to conclude, let me say the last words that Smart Specialization represents a new way of working together, which ensures stronger local and regional participation in decision-making, whose potential can be scaled up for the benefit of the region and the different entities working for the development of the territory, enabling regions to turn their industrial and research strengths and competitive advantage into marketable goods and services, prioritizing public research and innovation investment as key priorities, aiming at economic transformation of regions, building a regional competitive advantages and facilitating market opportunities in new interregional and European value chains, helping regions to anticipate, plan, and accompany the process of economic modernization, including incremental innovation in traditional industries. This is the reflection paper of the future of European Union finances. The evidence of alignment regarding objectives is clear, and S4 Andalucía seems to be a relevant framework for the success in its objectives of the EIT RawMaterials Southern Spain. Thank you very much for your attention. Okay.
Thank you very much, Pablo, for your presentation and for the plans we have in Andalucía now. That is really interesting to hear about it. Okay, so now with this, we have reached to the end of this opening event. And I would like to thank first again all our speakers, Fernando, Pablo, Luke, Tina, Pierluigi, and our Vice President of International Affairs, Angeles, and Moira, also from his team. Well, now our biggest challenge starts. During this morning, we have highlighted and discussed key topics related to the objectives of this EIT RawMaterials Hub. And now it is time to start taking action, along with the main representative from the administration, the industry, and higher education institution, to ensure a consolidated and sustainable exploitation and processing of raw materials in our region. Before we finish, I would like to bring back some remarks on today's meeting. First, Southern Spain has not only a strong importance in Europe as a current raw material supplier, but also has a lot of potential to continue developing a joint mining strategy, particularly in the exploitation of rare earths, materials of strong importance to reach the European Green Deal goals, and in line with the European Raw Materials Alliance plan of action to the transition to a green and digital economy in Europe. We also know that in order to follow the raw materials strategy, especially in the exploitation of critical raw materials, we need to work together. Europe is still reliant on international markets to have access to many important raw materials, a fact that threatens the achievement of our goals. In this sense, the Smart Specialisation strategy for sustainability, like the S4 in Andalucía, as well as continued training opportunities that are being developed by the EIT RawMaterials, and that we will be working on with regional stakeholders from this hub. Both are working in order to ensure the access to resources in a sustainable way. We need to start working under this action plan as soon as possible, and to do so, we need to establish a strong partnerships with institutions that are willing to join the hub. If you would like to join the hub, please get in touch with us. You can find our email address, I think, on the slide, and also the social media. And also soon we will launch in the official website of the hub. So I hope we continue not only stopping in this event, but we continue collaborating together. And I finally thank again once more all of you for your presence here today and for your interest on this event and on this hub. Thank you very much.